And even if the world doesn't like it, we keep, that's what is in there. And those who like it will come forth, and those who are cold in the Spirit will lead them. And he used the concept of football, Pastor Kelly. And he says, you know what? He's like, I don't remember the last time. I was like, how much has football changed? Other than the football boots. It's like, it's pretty much stayed the same. They have a little ball and they kick in the net. It's like, it still attracts thousands of people to come watch. Millions. It's like, nobody's changing anything. It's like, why do we have to change? It's like, it'll bring them. It was good then, it'll be good now. And I understand that, I get that. But, oh, sorry there. Yes, I'll be okay. Oh, wow. Someone read for me chapter 1, some interesting things to read. Chapter 1, verse 2.
Verse 2?
Yes, chapter 1, verse 2, just that.
I have loved you, says the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, says the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob.
Yes. Here's another interesting thing. They ask a simple question. The Lord said to the Israelites, I have loved you. And they respond, how have you loved us? God, where have you been? And the Lord says, I've always been with you. Have you? I haven't noticed. And now, obviously from hindsight, if we just take it all the way back from Egypt until now, the Lord's been there ever so, continuously guiding them. But the Israelites are so, I don't know where they're at, where the Lord says, I love you. And they respond back, how have you loved us? Could you please explain, because I haven't noticed. And remember, this is to reflect us sometimes. Where, you know, the Lord says, I've always been with you. You're like, have you? Or he says, I've always loved you. And I feel like sometimes we get to that place like, do you really love me, Lord? And the Lord's like, I'm literally giving you breath right now to keep breathing and going. Every breath we take is the one is letting us, allowing that. And we're going, and we question him with the breath he's given us. How ironic is that? Chapter 3, verse 1. Someone read for me chapter 3, verse 1.
I will send my messenger who will prepare the way before me. Then suddenly the Lord you are seeking will come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant whom you desire will come, says the Lord Almighty.
Okay. Who is the one he is sending? This is a type of foreshadowing, a prophecy to come.
John the Baptist.
Yes, John the Baptist, who everybody thought for a little bit was Elijah. It's not Elijah, it's John the Baptist. He's not a Baptist. It's just, he was actually, early on, just to let you guys some interesting knowledge, he was actually known as John the Baptizer because he was the first person to start baptizing people. Because most of the times baptism took place by the people would just go and baptize themselves. But John changed it and he came in and he was like, I'm going to hold you and put you in the water. And so they're like, hey, that's John, the baptizer. You know, isn't that guy, the baptizer? And obviously over time, people shortened it to go, hey, you know, John the Baptist is a little bit more catchier. So just in case someone goes, hey, you know, John was a Baptist, you're like, no, shut up, you're wrong. Just a little knowledge here for today. Someone read for me chapter 6. Just the first sentence of chapter 3, verse 6.
For I am the Lord, I change not, therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed.
Yes, I, the Lord, do not change. He doesn't change. He stays consistent. He's forever the same. He's always the same. From the beginning to the end, he always will be faithful, merciful, gracious, long-lasting, suffering, patient, but he is also judge, counselor, and prosecutor. So he doesn't change, if you ever wondered. Someone read for me chapter, verse 8, actually. Sorry, verse 7. Chapter 3, verse 7. We're going, I know, we're reading some hit points. Chapter 3, verse 7. Chapter 3, verse 7.
even from the days of your fathers, you are gone away from my ordinances and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you.
Boom, the Lord's telling them, return, come back.
He said, wherein shall we return?
Where shall we return? The Lord says, return to me and I'll return back to you. And the people are very cheeky. They go, so where are we going to go? Right? Yeah, and it's not talking about a physical place, but it's saying, hey, in your spirit, in your spirituality, you know, in your connection with me, return. And I think Brother Jason preached there, you know, whenever we take that one step to the Lord, you know, the Lord takes, I don't know, he's got some serious, you know, I'm sure the Lord's really tall, and he takes giant steps towards us. You know, it says, if you draw nigh to him, he'll draw nigh unto you. I remember my Bible school teacher told me once upon a time, he fell in love with this girl, and her name was Nine. And so when he read the scriptures, it says, hey, if you draw nigh to me, I draw nigh to you. So he thought, if I draw her closer to God, God will draw closer to me. I thought that was brilliant. He says, worked for me, guys. I'm married 50 years. But I don't advise that to anybody. Misinterpretation of the scriptures. Oh yes, sorry guys, chapter 4, that's the one I wanted. Chapter 4, verse 5.
Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Yes, who's the prophet? Elijah. But who is it foreshadowing? It's John the Baptist.
Right?
Yes, that's who he's talking about. But he doesn't know, he can only refer to what he knows. That's why whenever people saw John coming, they were like, is that Elijah? And they're like, no, it's John the Baptist. But the prophet Malachi said, I know how you got the confusion, but that's John, you know, the baptizer. So what happened in the middle of those 400 years? Quick lesson after that, because this is the end of the Old Testament. And then 400 years of silence. You don't hear from God, you don't hear from his prophets, you hear nothing for 400 years. Destruction comes. Now, guess what? The Israelites were a bit of a powerful nation because now they're free. They came out of captivity. And so guess what comes? The Greeks come. The Greeks come and try to take over. And I forgot his name. The emperor hated, just wanted to eradicate the Jewish faith so much. He went in and he stormed into the temple. He built a statue of Zeus inside the temple, and he sacrificed a pig inside the temple because the Jewish people strictly have a law that they do not eat pork or any of that. And they don't even bring it close to the temple. He goes into the temple, builds a statue of Zeus, and sacrifices a pig. Pigs in there to just show how much he despises them and hates them. The Jewish people rebelled, fought. They won the battle, beat those Greeks, said no. The Romans came by, said, hey, Jewish people, we don't like them either. The Jewish fought back, and the Romans smacked them. They went into the temple, went into the holies of holies, and they started desecrating everything, and they were like, well, that was fun. And they left. And so within those 400 years, the Jewish people fought the Greeks, and then finally they were conquered by the Romans. And then after that, obviously, you have the Gospels, and then you have the continuous war against the Romans. And you know what? Moving to the 21st century, you have still fighting from the history of the Jewish people and the Germans, to now you have Palestine and Israel, Syria, still fighting. So essentially, the Jewish people have fought the Philistines. No, they fought the Canaanites, the Philistines. Sorry, the Jewish people fought the Egyptians, the Canaanites, the Philistines, the Babylonians, the Medes, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans again, the Syrians, the Germans, and Palestine currently, and they've never lost. They keep coming back. They've lost but never been right. They always fight. They always come up fighting back. Where are the Romans? Kind of go. Where are the Philistines today? Where are the Canaanites? Where are the Edomites? But guess who always seems to be there? They're never, they're not the type of winners who come up like, they're the type of winners who are on their knees going, woo! We nearly got destroyed again. But the promise was that, hey, God promised them, I'll always be there with you. And so any battle, just know I'm there in the midst of it. And so if anyone looks at history, or any general, anyone who's smart enough, even if you're not religious, if no one has beaten the Jewish people now, might as well just leave them and go fight somebody else. Honestly. Like what? And they're not a massive nation. But for some reason, nobody seems to be able to just...
They're the chosen ones, aren't they? Right?
Alexander the Great. That's him. You know Alexander fought those Jewish people. He didn't win. Mr. Alexander the Great. And so, minor prophets. That's it. The Lord decided and realized, here's another thing. He stopped sending his prophets because you have the minor prophets, you have the major prophets. It seemed they didn't get the message. So the Lord said, hey, you know what? I'm going to come down for myself and actually tell you. And Israelites still didn't really get the message. At this point, if he sends all those prophets and he came down himself, I don't know what the plan is, Lord. We'll see at the end. But nonetheless, of course, there's hope for the Israelites. I believe the Lord always brings them through. But
it tells them, doesn't he, all the time?
he does. He's been telling them.
No, but it tells them that they will feel the wrath. Even the Germans, they felt the wrath when they persecuted them and gassed them. I mean, they felt the wrath there and they started only 10 times more.
I think
And then they fought the Palestine.
I think Israel is like one of those troubled children. You know them? Like you just discipline and you discipline, you send them to counseling, you send them to a psychiatric ward, you put them on medication. They just
get one day mindsets, aren't they?
You're just like, what? Do you not see I'm trying to help you? They're like, I'm like, oh my God.
But do you not think they know they're the chosen ones?
Yeah.
They do, but they're still waiting for Messiah.
Yeah.
They're waiting for the Messiah, but they still know they're the chosen ones.
Yeah.
They must, because look, give them the day, and they're still here.
Honestly, not a lot of nations have that much history with that much war and still survived and still be quite successful. Egypt was a powerful nation, but today it's considered almost a third world country, almost.
Look at the 7 or 12 day war where all the Arab countries joined together to try and
Look at Mount Sinai.
and they weren't
The
able
Egyptians have got that, but they're only got it in use. They're not actually belonging to them, because the Jews just go in and take.
Anyway, let's not sidetrack, let's do one thing here. Next month, class presentation.
Right.
And, Mark, can you hear me? Okay, and I have your paper and I'll get back to you this week.
Okay.
And everyone okay for presentations? Elizabeth has a question to ask you.
Are you coming next month for presentation?
No, because nobody's asked our pastors, so it has to be passed through
No,
them.
you were
but
to ask them.
I was told it's got to come from Brother Kelly and that.
Well, Jim, you were teaching.
I'll see what I can sort out. Okay, but just as long as everyone knows next month presentations, right?
Right.
Okay.
And Jim's going to see Sister Kelly and Pastor Kelly for you. Because he's our teacher. And it was his idea.
Yep. I think that's...
It'd be good to have her here.
How long did I say each presentation is?
10 minutes.
All right. And
5 minutes.
Yeah, that's a fail. And I give you guys directions for what is needed to be involved, right?
Either a poem or...
I was going to get the boys up here and do a kind of drama thing. Is that
Hey,
okay?
that's okay. It's part of your presentation. Okay, just as long as I gave everyone a criteria, correct?
You
What was the
got
criteria?
Let me see.
Historical.
Would to pick one minor prophets.
Yes, pick up. Of course. I hope you don't pick random
That's right.
prophet.
What was that?
I know.
Huh?
No, you just made it up yourself. You never wrote it.
La 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 la. Oh, when the saints
Oh my goodness.
came marching in.
Yes, that's minor
Oh, when the
prophets.
saints came marching in. Oh, when the saints. All right. Okay, so if you guys don't have the criteria,
I did write it down.
you do. Do you have it, Callum?
It's okay,
You know.
do
Do you remember the criteria?
You know what?
I wrote it down.
You're the only one.
I'll be back.
Right, so what is it?
Are you done?
Yeah, it's